I still remember that year in 2018. It was Camp Reverb. I just remember I met this dude. His name was Kevin. Um, Down to earth dude. I remember the exact image of him. I mean, he was just a down to earth dude. Went to his campsite several times with his girlfriend there and a couple other people and stuff. And you know, just thought he was a down to earth dude. You know, happy as could go lucky guy. Um, I just remember one night I wasn't feeling the best when we went to camp, and I just heard some people yelling and arguing and stuff. And I was like, whoa.
But they were all ganging up on Kevin. Kevin was sobbing and begging them to stop. And I never seen him leave. And things got real quiet and eerie. That morning after, I didn't hear one single friend or campmate asking for Kevin.
We're here in Michigan with the parents of Kevin Graves. Can you tell us a little bit about Kevin?
No, Kevin was he was a good kid growing up. I mean, he, like any other kid, he got in a lot of trouble. But he was still a well-mannered, and he did good things. He worked hard when he worked. You could tell him to do something and he'd know how to do it. And he was just a good kid when it come to doing that. He paid attention and
A little bit about Kevin. Kevin, he reminds me, I have a son who's 7, and he reminds me so much of Kevin. He was high energy, but had like a little heart of gold. But he got himself into trouble a lot, but he's just a sweet kid when it came down to it. I would say that he didn't always make the wisest decisions. And he made his decisions with his heart, not his head. So, and that included girlfriends, animals, everything. So, but he was very close with my mom and my dad and me.
Can you tell us about his disappearance?
well, I had retired, so I was here at home all the time. And he had his girlfriend's car that she had somebody put an engine in it. I think it was her brother or somebody. And, or her
find
ex.
out he was missing.
And so I was working on her car, getting it ready for him to go to this festival, because they were talking about going, and he didn't have really anything else to drive. His truck was not capable of doing it. So I told him, I said, I'll look at it for you and see what we can find out. And I looked at it, and all it was a bubble in the cooling system. And so anyhow, they got everything all set and going, and they're going to this festival. And I says, well, when you get back, I says, I could use some help around here. He says, no problem, Dad. I'll come by and give you some help. We went to Kentucky to see my daughter and the grandkids. And we were on our way home from there when she called us. I think we were in Ohio. And she said that Kevin went missing. I said, what do you mean he went missing? She says he left here last night and we haven't seen him since. We don't know where he's at. And we're leaving to come home because I got to get home to the kids. She had 2 kids.
Okay.
So I said, okay, well, we're almost home. When we get home, we'll give you a call. So that's what we did. And in the meantime, Kathy and I both trying to call him, and all we're getting is voicemail on his phone. So we left it at that. And I got home and I called her, and she said, she says, I want to go back up there with you and we'll see what we can find out. This was on, I think it was July
Like second.
2nd. Yeah.
July 2nd or 3rd.
The 2nd, because the 3rd was when my son, my oldest son, from my first marriage, we went up. And she called us and said she's already up there. Okay. Now, we kind of felt that kind of strange because when I talked to her, I was going to pick her up and we were going to go up there together, the three of us, so she could show us everything where they were at and all that. And, but she is already up there. She had a flat tire. She broke down in a gas station. So I had to go over to her house to get the spare tire for her Jeep. Took that up there. We got there and she said she's been going around putting up pictures and everything. She was in Muskegon, which is south of where the festival is in Rothbury. So we got there and we started talking, and she said that she could take us where they were looking for them and everything, in which that's what we did. And my son and I we were up there all the way through the weekend before we come home. And she said she had to get back home because she had to get back to work and all this. So we kept looking and trying to find out things. I'm checking on his bank account to see if somebody has activated his account, things like that. And I went to the bank and explained to him what I was doing and proved that I was his father. But they couldn't give me information of what was in his account or anything like that. They just said there's no activation on it right now. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't drawn any checks or wrote any. He hasn't used his charge account, nothing. So I said, okay, that's fine. I said, can you let me know if anything happens? Well, the girl, the president of the bank, she says, I'll take care of it for you. And she did call me a few days later and said there was some activation on his account. Oh, who it was is his girlfriend, because she was on the account with him.
Okay.
She had wrote some checks. So asked her about it, and she just said, well, I had to pay some of the bills that we had,
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, because it was a joint account. So,
Right.
What are you going to do?
And can you tell us about his disappearance?
From where I was standing, I was in Kentucky, and my mom called me and said, well, we don't know where Kevin is, or Kevin, we can't find him. Like, what do you mean you can't find him? And he had just been texting with me the day before, and he told me he loved me and that he was having a good time. And the girlfriend was talking to us at the time. She was in contact with us. And so her and I, we were calling all of the hospitals and the jails, any place we could think of. And she was really helping us out. But people were starting to get annoyed with us because we kept calling. The girlfriend said that I don't know if she mentioned an argument, but maybe she did, but he walked away from the camp is what she said. Now I have notes that I talked to a girl, Courtney and I were talking to this girl. Her name is, and she was just down from them. And she heard the things that she heard, and the things that she said really contradict what the girlfriend said. So we first originally thought that he walked away. I think it was Sunday during the day. That's what I remember them saying. But It was Sunday night, she said, and um, she there was Kayla, Angel, and James. James Tyranny was his last name, but those three, they were bullying Kevin. They were, and he was just crying and upset. And she said this Angel girl went on Facebook saying that she was the last person to see Kevin, that she was trying to get Kevin to come back into Forest, which is completely contradictory because this says that she was yelling horribly at Kevin, just treating him like crap. Um, and it was already dark. It was already Sunday night during the argument. So he didn't walk away on Sunday afternoon. He was still there on Sunday night. So she said Kevin wasn't aggressive at all, that he was being bullied. She couldn't see them, but there was a vehicle in between them, but she could hear everything. And she said Kayla definitely cheated on Kevin just because of the conversation and Kevin crying. He said things like, "You told me you weren't going to do this again. Um, you told me you were going to stop this and that it would never happen again." So in this short amount of time that she did a lap around, that short amount of time, maybe less than 5 minutes, she says, she didn't see Kevin leave anywhere. And then she said when she got back, it got really quiet. And so she feels in her heart of hearts, and all of this was within a 10-minute span. So she feels that within her heart of hearts that they did something to him. And she said that because of the way your vehicle could pull up to the tents, they could have easily pulled him in the vehicle and just left him. But then, the next day, Kayla tells us that she drives all the way from Rothbury back to Oakland County, which is about 3.5 hours, to get her dad before she told any of us to get her dad. And then her and her dad drove back up to look for Kevin.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? This is James, 10-year vet at Electric Forest. I still remember that year in 2018. It was Camp Reverb. I just remember I met this dude. His name was Kevin. Down-to-earth dude. I remember the exact image of him. I mean, he was just a down-to-earth dude. Went to his campsite several times with his girlfriend there and a couple other people and stuff. And, just thought he was a down-to-earth dude, Happy as could go lucky guy, I just remember one night I wasn't feeling the best when we went to camp, and I just heard some people yelling and arguing and stuff. And I was like, whoa, that's not my spot to put my opinion in and go there and break it up and stuff, So obviously I went back to camp. Everybody had a good time that night. A couple of days later, I find out that this guy, he still hasn't been found yet. I was like, happens all the time. People go to Electric Forest. They meet some people, they disappear with them for a week or two, then they always go back. Now look, 2024, he's still no information found. Somebody has to have some sort of information on where Kevin went. I mean, there's an Electric Forest saying, everybody goes, Carl, Carl, every year. I mean, when that goes on, I yell, Kevin, Kevin, and everybody just looks and they're oblivious because these newbies and everybody's oblivious to what goes on there. And the fact that Electric Forest is worried about their PR and they kick their family out. I mean, the one year I met, I want to say it was the sister and the dad by the porta potties. And, I broke down, crying because I told them, like I met Kevin, they're arguing and I could have maybe said something, but, nothing happened. And it's sad. Electric Forest really needs to put their people first because we're the ones that make Electric Forest what it is to this day. The veterans that go out of their way and just do everything. He was a great guy, great son, and just a great person to be around. He was just an energy-filled human being.
It was Sunday leading into Monday morning. I'm almost certain it was already Monday morning. Can't fully exactly remember what time it was, but I'm pretty sure it was past midnight. And I'd gotten into a fight with my husband that night, and he ran off into the forest, so I was back at camp trying to angry dial him and could not get reception. The only place that we could get reception was right in front of Kevin's campsite. So I was standing by Kevin's campsite, angry dialing my husband when I started hearing the commotion. So I hung up, thought I put my phone in my pocket, and started listening for a little while. It was bad. I heard Kevin, one of the women that was camping with Kevin, not Kayla, his girlfriend. First I heard her, the campmate, degrading Kevin as Kevin was sobbing, saying things like, "No, Kayla, you promised you wouldn't do this again." And he was extremely heartbroken as the campmate started telling Kayla how Kevin was a big piece of shit and how that she should leave him. And Kayla started chiming in, and there was also another campmate that was there, male. He wasn't chiming in as much, but they were all ganging up on Kevin. Kevin was sobbing and begging them to stop. And I was starting to feel really uncomfortable. It was getting really, really heated. And I really thought that I should pull Kevin out of the camp. I was getting this gut feeling that I should just pull him out, but I was fighting with my husband, and it was really, like I'm saying, it was so heated. They were so angry, and I don't know why. He was literally heartbroken and sobbing and begging them to stop. Anyways, I walked away for a minute and was contemplating walking back, and that's when I realized I didn't have my phone. While I was standing by their site, I had lost my cell phone, so I started walking back to their campsite, which I wasn't far off, a couple feet away. Started walking back. Didn't see it, but didn't want to draw attention. There was still a little commotion going on. Same stuff. So I go and I leave again, trying to trace back my tracks. The little bit that I did walk, maybe my phone fell out then before I tried angry dialing my husband again. Couldn't find it, and for a long time I just kept doing laps and trying to pay attention to that situation. And I never seen him leave, and things got real quiet and eerie. That day, that morning after, I didn't hear one single friend or campmate asking for Kevin. We left after them. It was very odd. We were only 3 to 4 camping spaces down from them.
Prior to doing any interviews in the Kevin Graves case, we were threatened by a friend of the girlfriend, stating, legally, "I do hope she isn't slandered on your part." Also stating, "Trust me, her lawyers is taking notes on slander and misinformation, especially illegally being discussed on an open case." We requested an interview with the friend or the girlfriend, which they declined. Kayla is currently facing several very serious charges in 7th Circuit Court and 67th District Court. With the 67th District Court, she's facing a misdemeanor charge of stalking harassment. She's out on a $25,000 personal bond with a schedule for pretrial on January 16th. With the 7th Circuit Court, she's facing 2 felony counts of controlled substance, delivery, manufacturer, and 5 felony counts of weapons, felony firearm, 2 felony counts of weapons, firearm, and possession by a felon, 2 felony counts of weapons, ammunition, possession by a felon. She's out on $5,000 bond with a pretrial hearing set for January 14th.
Now, how long after Kevin's disappearance did his girlfriend stop helping and stop communication?
About 3 weeks. 3 weeks. And that's when she was giving back his stuff and claiming that she found drug paraphernalia. Um, she just wanted us to like leave her alone. And she went from being super helpful and wanting to be a part of it. But, I guess she was even at some of the searches, she was acting peculiar, peculiar. And she just kind of like, almost like she was just a stranger helping out with the search. Like she didn't seem to have any emotion involved, and it seemed to be like she may have been goofing around or something like that. And I just not the place for that. It just seemed the way my family explained it. They thought a lot of them thought she was high, which is fine, that's okay. But, they were, and I think she probably did feel like people were coming after her and thinking it was her. But then at the same time, how much of that is people coming after her and how much of that is a guilty conscience,
Right.
you know? Yeah. And then she started going on Facebook and telling everybody that we were harassing her and she didn't want anything to do with any of this anymore. And that just to go from calling hospitals and morgues and everything to not wanting to be bothered by it, it's just really strange. And I mean, he was involved with her kids. He took her girls to school. Um, yeah, I mean, he was really intertwined in their lives.
Phone records, we couldn't obtain those because the phone was in the girlfriend's mother's. And of course, she wouldn't give us permission to get those phone records.
Oh.
So we couldn't do anything.
We couldn't
with
even
that.
get the police to do that. They could have done that.
Yeah, they could have gotten a
They
subpoena.
could have got a subpoena and got her phone record
Right.
released.
She had called my dad and wanted him to come pick up Kevin's belongings. So my sister and my dad went over there to get it, and I was sorting through some of it with my sister, and I was talking to Kayla, the girlfriend, on the phone. And I asked her, I said, would it be okay if we, got a copy of his phone records because his phone was in Kayla's mom's name. So the three of them were on a plan together, I guess. And I didn't ask for hers. I wanted Kevin's, so we could see the last call he made and the text messages that he sent. And I think police can get more of a history than what, you or I could get from our phones. Like they could actually get what the text messages said, right? So we mentioned that to her. And as soon as I started asking that, she kind of said, well, I'll ask my mom or something like that. And when I kept bugging her about it, then she started getting defensive and started saying that I was bothering her. And she kind of up and stopped talking to us.
Now, did he have his phone on him when he went missing?
Supposedly he did. Sunday was it was about 1:30 or 2:30 in the afternoon when I got the last text message from him. But I never really took that to too much heart because the service was so spotty up there. I figured that maybe it could have come through later than what he actually sent it. But I mean, he wasn't being cryptic, but he was we used to have this thing where, I love you, I love you, I love you more, and then he would just always do, I love you the most, so that I couldn't one up him or anything. And that's what he said. He said, I love you the most. He didn't seem to have good service. That's what I understood. And he wasn't able to really call us. So, but yeah, she did not like me asking for the phone records. And I didn't even want hers. It was just Kevin's. And the police didn't seem to care about that. They don't seem to care about a lot. And they think that we have these conspiracy theories in our heads as the family. And I just feel like every story that starts like this, 30 years later, it ends with the police didn't do their job.
Was I know
Yeah.
we talked about the phone records, but did the police department ever get a hold of his phone records to see when his phone turned off or where his phone last pinged at? Any of that?
I don't think so. Nope. We
Wow.
never got any of that information. And every time we asked, they just blew us off.
How long were they together prior to his disappearance?
I want to say 2 to 3 years. Yeah. Because yeah, I think like 2.5 years.
When her new husband came over here one day and wanted to talk to us and tell us that she knows more than what she's telling you.
And that was her new husband?
That was her new husband.
Okay. Are they
He was
still
very
together?
nervous.
And he sat here just shaking. He was so nervous. Well, he allowed me to tape it. So I took my phone and I taped our conversation, put it on a flash drive. I gave it to the sheriff.
Never gave it back to us.
Never gave it back to me or anything like that. Haven't heard a thing from him regarding that. A lot of guys just another druggie, That's all we get. They all, so they keep passing it off that Kevin's just a druggie.
Right.
And I says, no. Yes, he had a problem doing drugs, smoking pot. I will admit that every kid does at that age. But I'm sure if it was your son, you'd want to know exactly where the hell he's at.
Exactly.
One way or the other.
Right.
He was 28 when he went missing.
And he's 34 now. So.
I mean, we're never going to give up.
Yes.
Never. We just basically want some answers.
Right, exactly.
As to what happened. And
how long after he went missing did the girlfriend let you know that he was missing?
The next day.
The next day?
Yeah, the next day she was on her way home when she called us.
How long did it take before he was reported missing to the police department?
I think it was.
Well, we did it that day when we got home, and we had trouble because I first called the state police. State police said I had to call where he was living, which he was living with his girlfriend over in Highland.
Okay.
He wasn't living with us, even though he had a room downstairs. So his driver's license said Highland.
Okay.
And so when the sheriff got it over there, Oakland County Sheriff, they weren't very concerned about it at all. He's over 18, he's a grown up, he's a young man now, and he's big enough to make his own decisions. He's still missing. He's my son, and he's still missing.
Right.
I'm
The problem was
standing right there in front of his lieutenant. I said, I don't give a shit what you guys say. He still belongs to me. And he's my baby, and I and my wife want to find out what the hell is going on.
what the problem is the girlfriend went to the Highland Police Department to report him missing. And they took the case just because he lived there. However, he should have been interviewed. She should have reported it to the state police because that's where he went missing. That's
Up in
what we were
Rothbury.
told.
Do you know why the Detroit Police Department was the one to get the report and not Rothbury?
I don't know, because when we called the police, the state police, I can't remember who it was that told us, but they told us that they had to file it in the county, in the area he lived, instead of where he went missing. And then that sergeant, I don't know, did you get a chance to talk to that sergeant?
No, we haven't.
Oh, he's an awful human. Um, he he's so arrogant and so sure, and he even contradicts himself, but they accepted it. Why would you accept a missing persons case where you don't know the area, where you're 3 hours away? And I have been looking and trying to find ways to, because I want to go and we want the case turned over back to the state police. But what has to happen is it Highland Township or whoever, Oakland County, whoever has it, they have to request for the state police to take it. And when we went to talk to him, he said he didn't have any problems with that. I don't know why my parents haven't done that. I think they're just overwhelmed.
There was a one time you went up to the next year's festival and you were handing out flyers and they kicked you out.
Yeah,
Yes.
the CEO in charge of this
That
festival.
was the first year after Ron had passed away. And we were on our own again. And we were up there passing out these flyers. And the CEO that we had met with and everything told us that we were welcome on the property to check these areas out that we wanted to, but didn't want us to interfere with their festival.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we
he
weren't
claimed
really interfering.
We were gave him bad rep. Bad prep.
Because the year before that, we had got passes
Okay.
from this woman that was in charge of it. And she gave us passes to get in there. And it was only for so many of us.
A lot of family.
All family that were up there trying to help us, everybody that was willing to do something. And people were really nice in the festival, answering questions. We had people come up to us and say, yeah, I was a campsite down from where he was at. I remember him very well. And they got into an argument, his girlfriend, and there was another couple involved in it. And it seemed like they got in the argument over something to do with sex because his girlfriend was in the tent with this other girl. And he said, you promised you wouldn't do this no more, but I guess with the drugs and everything that they were playing with, changed her mind. I don't know.
The last 2 years, we purchased a billboard.
Yeah.
And we had that 2 years. That's when we met the CEO of this festival. He came out from Colorado to talk with us because we were giving him a bad rep.
Oh, okay.
And he says, I went in there with a list of wants that I wanted. And he says, well, all I can do for you is put the posters up, a big poster at the information booth. And then we were banned from the festival.
Are you still banned currently?
Yes. The owner was very accommodating when he first.
Yeah, we can get in there if we want to pay a big price for a ticket to get in there. They'll let you in.
And he said, well, we used to pass out flyers. They end up on the ground, whatever. And, but I think the flyers were helpful.
I
There's
did too, because the
flyer
flyers were on the trees. People were putting them on the trees everywhere. I didn't see flyers flying around on the ground or nothing.
Yeah,
we
businesses
were there
up there.
because we walked through there. I mean, my cousins, they were out there. They tromped through that whole area.
Family too.
And family members, and none of them ever saw anything thrown on the ground.
Right.
So that excuse that they give us was just a big excuse.
Do you know if there was ever any sightings of him?
There was some people said that Mexican restaurant, did you guys get the name of that? That one was weird because of the people said that my girlfriend and her dad dumped me here. And he's smart enough to where he would have found a phone and called us or something, or found a way to get a hold of us, called the police, like, unless he was just really out of his mind on psychedelic drugs. That was that one was the weirdest because of the details they gave. But everything else was just, it was mostly people sending us pictures of guys that looked like Kevin, that resembled him, like the description match, but once you saw the face, it just not even close. Some people would call and say that they saw him, asking for money on a corner somewhere, not like soliciting himself, but just panhandling, I guess. And then they never amounted to anything.
So do you know if that Mexican restaurant tip was ever confirmed?
I'm sure, I don't know if it was confirmed. I mean, our search and rescue leaders did go to I know that they went there multiple times and they called and and that's just the same story that they gave. And I think we even talked to the person that answered the phone, and that's what they said. But then I guess it could have been anybody too, because there were so many people at that festival. So maybe it wasn't Kevin.
Did they have any surveillance cameras or anything in the restaurant?
I don't think so.
A statement where somebody said that a girlfriend and their father dropped them off the Mexican restaurant, and it's in the binder as well, and it was uploaded online as well. It was somebody put that out there as well.
Yeah, that was put out there, and we had checked up there, and we all them leads that we had on that, we went up and checked every one of them out. We talked to the owner of the restaurant. He says he remembers him going out and sitting on the curb because we were closing up.
Okay.
And then he left and he went across the street. And that was the last they saw him.
Do you know what day that was? Was that the Monday?
That had to be the Monday or Tuesday.
Do you know if that was ever confirmed by like surveillance tapes or?
No.
Now, there was a rumor that he was picked up by the 12 tribes, I believe it was.
Yeah.
12 tribes. Oh, the 12 tribes. So they have I was working at a hospital at the time, so I was up really early. And I remember on a Saturday morning, I called, I think it was in Chattanooga. Yeah. I called them at like 6:30 in the morning. And I just went over the description of what happened. And, of course they denied it. But if he was there, they're not going, and they were harboring him, they're not going to tell us the truth anyways. So, but there was a lot of people saying that, and he is the type of person that would join a cult, you know? My dad and the search and rescue team, they went to Marshall, Michigan, to where they have, I guess, a post of 12 tribes, and they denied that they were at the festival. However, my dad's friend is a truck driver, and he said that when he was at a rest stop that weekend, that he saw the bus up there. He saw it at this rest stop that's right by Rothbury or which I think Rothbury. And he said that and multiple people said that they saw the bus there. I mean, it's a pretty distinct, but have you seen it?
No.
It's pretty distinct. But I mean, I called, I think they have it's called it's a deli that they own. They own delis where their members work. And the lady was very helpful, and she talked to me for about a half hour, and I just gave her the information, and she did not know what another branch might have been doing. So she doesn't know if they were up there. And she did say that she would call around for me and ask. And then when I called back, she said that they didn't hear anything and they haven't seen him. So, but yeah, I really think he's gone. I do. And I don't think we'll ever know.
Someone had commented that his girlfriend started dating the guy that she was camping with after his disappearance. Have you heard that?
Yes, it's been confirmed that he was at her house within the weeks. I mean, almost immediately he was at her house, and because she needed protection, because she was afraid that people were going to, retaliate against her because they thought she did something to him. So she wanted James there for protection. And I call bullshit. And I'm pretty sure that's what Kevin walked in on, was them, maybe even Angelina or Angela. Yeah. Who knows what they could have been doing in that tent.
He was there with his girlfriend and then two other people, Angel and I forget the other name now.
James.
Now, did he know them prior to the festival?
He did, and he did know them. And, they said that they were like his best friends and stuff like this. There's another person named Ashton McKee, and he apparently was, I think, their drug dealer, I guess. He was a really bad character, and things have been thrown around that he knows something, but nothing's ever came of it. He was just, I remember his name came up a lot. It's just, everything's a dead end. And my parents honestly probably know more.
Do you remember the name of the guy that I showed you a picture of it last night?
You told me Ashton.
Ashton.
Ashton, yes.
That was it. That was the first time I've ever heard of it. They brought up Ashton, and they were talking about, I don't know, it was somebody that, I think he was saying like his business got robbed or something like that, and that he did it. And do you know anything about him?
I didn't write down.
Not about business. We do know he was one of the people, the group that went up together.
Yeah, so, he was up there.
He was supposedly a friend of his girlfriend and Kevin and that group that went up there.
So
you're saying he was like robbing people?
Yeah, I don't know the
They claim that Kevin and him were out robbing people.
Right.
When they were in the festival, they were hitting their tents and robbing them. I don't know how true any of that is.
Right. Okay. 'Cause I read that apparently Ashton's girlfriend, Ashton gave some drug that was laced to his girlfriend. The girlfriend got really upset with him because it made her very uncontrollably lucid kind of thing. And I read that. I don't know the validity of all of these comments that come in and statements by people and tips, but I just know that was just something that came in. Did he do you know if he disappeared, Ashton?
I understand he's in jail. Right now. I don't know if he ever got out of jail yet.
How are
Did you
getting
ever
in touch?
hear anything from a Charlie Brown?
You'd have to ask Courtney.
I don't think so.
Courtney's probably watching right
now. Angel was up there with him, and I think something happened. Maybe not. She didn't do anything. We're not sure. But I'm definitely sure that she knows something.
She knows something even if she didn't do something.
Right. She's got the answers, and her dad was a felon too, so.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
And he did drugs
He had been in prison, and so he knew how to get rid of a body.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I did read or I heard, I don't know where I saw it, but that she had drove home to Detroit and then back up there with her father.
Right.
And why would she drive 3.5 hours to get back and then drive 3.5 hours back?
Right.
And that kind of always made us wonder.
Was when they did all that, were all the campsites still set up? Like, were they?
No.
So everything was broken down.
Everything was broken down because when my son and I got there, they were out there bulldozing everything down, where they had inloaders loading dumpsters and going through where the campsites were, because some people just leave their tents right there. They don't want them,
I can't imagine her driving with a body in the vehicle.
Right.
I mean, because that's too easy to get pulled over.
Now, the vehicle that they said was next to a tent, do you know whose vehicle that was?
I believe it was hers, and she got rid of it not too long after that. And they never investigated it. They never said, that's suspicious. They just said she sold it at auction.
You know that the friends. Do you know if those friends left with the girlfriend when she went to pick up her dad?
Because she said that they were following her home. They were in the car behind her because they had 2 vehicles up there.
Oh, they had 2 vehicles?
Yes. Charlie Brown, he's the one that they were trying to accuse that he had something to do with Kevin's disappearance.
Oh, okay. And that it was the girlfriend accusing him.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he said, Gary, I didn't have nothing to do with it. Kevin and I had no problems.
A couple months ago, my mom and I got a group text from, I don't even know their name, but they said, is this the family of Kevin Graves? And then I said, this is his mom and sister. And then he messaged me directly and said, this is basically what he told me, that he's technically a drug dealer. He was taking drugs to somebody. The person that he was taking them to was impaired and hit Kevin and put him in his vehicle to take him to the hospital, but he died. And I asked, I said, well, when was this? Where was this? He wouldn't answer any of my questions. And I told him, we really need to know. And he said it was years ago at some music festival in Michigan. So those things lined up, but he wouldn't tell me anything else. I said, well, where is the body? What happened? What did he do with the body? Did he bury it? We just want to know. And he just said it had been weighing on him for years and he had to get it off his chest. And then he just kind of stopped. He was mad at me because I was ungrateful for the information.
Now, when you say hit, was it like physically hit or hit with a vehicle?
Hit with a vehicle. Hit with a vehicle. And, that made sense to me because for him to just disappear, it just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Like he just disappeared into thin air and I love him, love his heart. He could build and fix anything, but he's not smart enough to just disappear. And that takes planning.
What do you think happened to him?
I think, go ahead.
Go, you do it.
I think, I always call these people her Goonies, the people that would hang with her. I think something happened, and I think he was either hit with a rock or something. And nobody has said anything. We really think something happened. We do think he's passed, but we want answers because Gary and I will never be the same. So that's what I think happened. I mean, I think something happened on the property. And when we walked the property, we figured we might find something, but the place is thousands of acres. So we did what we could.
Right.
What do you think happened here?
Well, I think, like you said, I think he was somebody he might have been fighting with somebody, got knocked down, knocked unconscious, or it hit his head and it killed him or whatever, you know.
Right.
And they buried him. And I think her dad and her went back up there to move him. That's been my opinion on the whole thing. I tried to get her to talk. I tried to make her think I was on her side. I tried everything I could think of to get something out of her, but I couldn't get nothing.
You tried to get phone records?
And Ron Atkins told me, he says, you're never going to get her to confess to you. That is never going to happen. No. He says, but if somebody else could get her to talk, then you'd be all right. But she'll never confess to you.
If Kevin just so happens to be alive and sees this, is there anything that you would like to say to him?
Oh, wow. I don't know what I would say. I'd be surprised and I would be overcome with all kinds of emotions. Nobody's ever asked me that before. I would just tell him to come home. You know, we love you. We're not mad at you. Just come home. It's time. Mom and Dad are sick over it. Sorry, nobody's ever asked me that before.
In the darkness of the night, a name echoes through the air. Kevin Graves, you've slipped from sight, but in our hearts you're still there. Shadows fall where you once stood, memories dance within our minds. Kevin, come back if you could. Lives entwined in frantic binds.
Sometimes I'll be sitting there in the living room watching TV and I'll just start crying. I'm not ashamed to admit it because I'm thinking about him. I'm looking at his picture there by the TV, and I just say, where the hell could you be?
Where is Kevin? What's the sign? We're left searching for a clue. Kevin Graves, you crossed the line. Without you, we feel so blue.
You wake up in the morning thinking about him, you go to bed thinking about him. I dream about him.
City lights, they seem to fade. When you're gone, the world feels gray. Kevin Graves, we're unafraid to find you will light the way. Every whisper, every sound feels like you're just out of sight. Kevin's name so profound. We'll keep searching every night. Every whisper, every sound feels like you're just out of sight. Kevin's name so profound. keep searching every night. Where is Kevin? What's the sign? We're left searching for a clue. Kevin Graves, you crossed the line. Without you, we feel so blue.
Just don't forget about Kevin, please. I know there are a lot of people missing, but and it's just we just need help.
Okay. Just giving me a call. Just wanted to see how your weekend was with Mom and Dad. I love you. Miss you.